once again, welcome back to Entertainment Rebooted, kind of a special edition little thing that we're doing right now. Not necessarily an entertainment recast, but kind of along the lines of that. While we were filming our 2023 box office recap, right at the end of it, when we were wrapping up, we started talking about some of the issues that were happening regarding the box office, specifically relating to the fact that Universal, for the first time in decades, had won the box office over Disney. And we just had some thoughts and went on a little bit of a tangent. There's stuff in there about the box office, why Disney's not doing so well, why Universal is doing better, some of the issues that are happening with IP related to Warner Brothers and Marvel and all these other things. There's a hodgepodge of stuff. There's a lot of good stuff, but we figured we were already ranting, we were already recording, might as well make sure that we keep that intact for you guys to enjoy in a little bit of a special edition recast or entertainment re-rant. I don't know what we're going to call it, but
ReRant sounds good to me.
Yeah, so re-rant. So enjoy this rant, I guess, about the 2023 box office results and what we believe is the root issue that Disney is facing going into the future. So enjoy. Interestingly enough, I think of the top 5 here, the only film that did well financially was Super Mario Brothers and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Wonka's still in theaters. It's relatively new. It's been in theaters for 3 weeks.
So Wonka, I expect, is suffering significantly from like sequel and prequel fatigue.
Yeah.
People just like, I don't want to watch another thing that's just remaking my childhood. And that's not, I'll say this 1,000 times. The reason people get that way is not because they're doing it. Nobody cares if they remake their childhood, if they make it well. They only complain about it when it's bad. But here's what I'll hear all the freaking time. You make childhood memories bad, people go, you're ruining my childhood. You're ruining the series. You never should have made it. Why do you keep making these films? They should stop making sequels and prequels. But when they make a good one, nobody has a problem with it. Just make them, if everybody made a lot more good ones instead of cash grabs, a lot of these would do better. But that's the problem. That's the name of the game. People will make easy sequels because that's what people go to see. And then no matter how many people say they want to see something new, they will go and watch Shrek 45 before they'll go and watch Rebel Moon.
Yeah.
This is a thing. They will go watch the 147th Star Wars film before they'll watch Rebel Moon and a unique sci-fi spin. And then the critics will rate it horribly. They'll go and be like, Star Wars fatigue is setting in, and then they'll rate this new interesting thing horribly because they don't like it, because it's not what they want. And it's just, I want more things like Wonka. I want more. This is exactly, and I actually will disagree to a hard content that remakes and redos are bad. I think they're great. I think, like you have said, they just need to be in the hands of other people that can come with interesting ideas with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's better. Remakes are often done remakes used to be done 60, 70 years after a film was done. They made like the original Dracula in 1931, and the first time it was remade was like 1950. It was like 20, 30 years later.
Yeah, roughly, like Hammer.
But now we're at the point now where it was like, in some of these films would get remade, like Ocean's 11 got remade like 60 years later? 'Cause it was like,
It's like 40 or 50.
Yeah, 40.
I think it was the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
Was when they remade it.
Yeah, so you're giving enough time between that the times have changed enough, that things have changed enough, that there's enough to make it unique and new. But we're at a point now where they're remaking a film when it's not even a decade old.
Yeah, that's what bothers me.
Like Garfield was done, and then was done 2 years later, and then was remade 5 years later, and then remade again. The Smurfs has been redone 3 separate times in theaters. You've got so many films are being remade after they've already been remade, and they're remade again. And it's like, calm down. Like, well, you have to give enough time. If you want people to take a property seriously, you got to give them a little bit of time, and you got to make it unique.
Well, yeah, exactly. And you have to let it breathe.
Yeah, yes.
You have to let it breathe.
If we've learned anything for 2023, let it breathe. A lot of the stinkers from this year are original ideas that weren't given enough thought, or were sequels or prequels or like in series of people that have done this, like Illumination. Was two of these were Illumination ones. They had Teenage Kraken and
Well, no, that's Teenage Kraken was DreamWorks.
DreamWorks.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, DreamWorks was Teenage Kraken. Then you had Illumination's
Migration and Super
these
Mario
guys
Bros.
have made in Mario Bros. These guys have made other really great films, and then they make films. You've got a lot of this, like, there's got to be every year I think that this is gonna be the year they're gonna realize that all the stories have been told, and then there's good movies made.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too is that there's so much potential for so many of these films. Like yes, A Haunting in Venice is based off of a book, but it's an old enough book that people aren't like,
That's
I
the
love
whole
that
thing
book.
about the public domain. Like, Disney got started by retelling Brothers Grimm's tales in new fantastical ways. These stories hadn't been told or printed in 100 years. So it's they felt original again. And there was an original twist on those ideas. They did Tarzan, which was Edgar Rice Burroughs, serial. They did Hercules, which was an old myth, in a very different way. And they did it as a gospel film almost. That's fun and interesting and unique. And
the problem is that they're remaking the exact same film without the soul in it.
I had a professor when I was in high school yell and make a fuss that the Disney film Hercules was not true and accurate to the myths. And that it was first of all, it's a kid's film that's never going to work. But that's not even the point. Why would you just want them to retell what's already been done 1,000 times? They made something unique and fun and interesting. And this person's like, it's not what I wanted. It's not the original. It's like, then just go read the original myths. Or watch the Hercules content that's been done on Hercules 1,000 times to death. Disney did something original with it, and you're mad at it because it's original. That is how I see audiences nowadays. Yeah. Is they say they want unique, original, and new, but they'll go. I watch a ton of people go see The Little Mermaid. It was wonderful. It's just like I remember when I was a kid. I was like, it's nothing like the original. It's the songs are the same except for the two additional ones, but the songs are the same, but the heart, the feel, none of it's there. Yeah. It's hollow through a lot of it.
It feels very shell-like.
Yes.
That's why
we watched all these movies this year, and 2023 was rough, like you said at the beginning, and it's just a lot of it's just because I really think the biggest problem is audiences in Hollywood are not on the same page. I used to blame Hollywood solely, but honestly, I actually see them really trying to actually, what do you want?
I think half of them are trying.
No, obviously.
That's the thing.
Obviously, some aren't. Some just do their own thing. Some are doing arts. Atomic City was not done for the audiences. It was done because they wanted to make a fun, interesting film. But it was still fun and interesting, and I think it worked out well.
Well, I think that what's happening right now is we're going to have to wrap this up soon. We're going to talk forever.
I know.
But I think one of the things that the lessons learned of 2023 is the fact that listening to your audience is very important, but making your decisions making your own decisions and your own things is important as well. The winner in the box office for the first time in a long time was actually Universal. Universal came out of 2023, an awful year in the box office, with a positive. They actually made a profit in the box office. Disney lost almost $1 billion in the box office. But who's listening to their audience more? Is it Universal or is it Disney that keeps shoving crap down your throat?
It's a good, honestly, something I realized, we had this discussion earlier, and this is actually, I think, a good way to wrap up this whole thing. Because we talked about what we watched and how the films went and rating them and everything. But I think something that's interesting to talk about is net gains. Something I've learned from starting my own business and doing even things I've learned from video games and stuff. Example this slot machine in the Pokemon game. You sit there and you sit there and play the game over and over and over and over and over again. What matters more than anything? Your net gain. It's a game. You're not really caring about the real circumstances that are going in. But if you put that aside and you look at it like a gambling like aspect, if you put in $100 and you left the day at 105, you made more than you lost. Your net gain. All of you, and that's important to note because that includes all your expenses. You're not in debt. You don't owe anybody anything. You're free and clear, and you have $5 in your pocket that you didn't have before. This now think of that and including all your expenses, all of your expenses, your housing, everything is paid. Think of it like you and me, like we have a house, is paid off. Everything you have is paid off, and you have $5 in your pocket. Wouldn't that feel freaking amazing?
Oh yeah.
You don't own a mortgage. You don't own a lease. You own a $5 bill, and everything else that you have is an asset. No debt. That is what companies want. They want a net gain. Now, they want that to be as high as possible, but the idea is to come out at the end of everything with more than you went into it. You want your growth in it. If you pay yourself a salary out of that and everything else is scared, you're doing well.
Yeah.
If you got $5 in your pocket. Universal makes, say, 10 films. 9 of them flop, but 1 does exceptionally well, and they make out with $150 million. They won the lottery. They made their money because that is on top of their... Now, there's always hidden costs. A budget of a film, you're also including like the operation of the studio and everything. But getting in all that, that's the point. Disney made how many films this year? Because they own 5 studios now. They own Lucasfilm, they own Pixar, they own Marvel, they own classic Fox, and then they own, of course, the Disney properties. 5 freaking separate like branches of properties, which means like every film that operated under any one of those umbrellas was Disney. There was like 40 films this year they did.
Oh, yeah.
And they lost $1 billion. Had they made even $5, they would have been unhappy, but they would have counted that as a win. They lost $1 billion. That means that means even if they could have made 2 Mario films level of success, and all the rest of them would have drowned it out completely. Like that's how miserably they failed and missed the mark. That's insane to me.
Well, they lost almost as much as Universal made on Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. And the other thing, too, is that when you're doing well as a studio, you're willing to take a couple more risks, and you're going to make more fun films.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing. It's like...
Some of the best films, in my opinion, are made in years when... or the years right after they have a successful box office here because they're willing to make more risky films. And so you end up with really fun ones. They don't do as well in the box office, but I think a lot of studios care about cult classicness as well, like DVD sales, things like that, because that's branding. If people go around and say the Universal Monster movies is a great example of that. Mm-hmm. What do we all know? We know them as the Universal Monster films. The Universal made those monsters a thing. Yeah. And so that even the old 1930 film that they don't make any money on anymore is still branding because it's who they are.
Well, yeah. And people adore the whole franchise.
Yes.
But the thing is that
even if there's bad films in those franchises, but that's okay because the overall
you're more willing to forgive it if like overall they make a decent product.
Yes.
And the thing is that right now Universal is making like We've had our scuffles with the studios,
yes,
because of Curb Stomp. But to be honest, like of all the studios, a lot of people think that like, especially in my office, they have this running gag that I'm like Universal's #1, Public Enemy #1, because of how much we were fighting Universal that one time. But if I'm just being honest, like as much as
the one that fought us the hardest was Paramount and Apple TV. They hit us hard.
Yeah, they're the only ones that really, really fought. Like Paramount kind of ticked me off, but Universal at the same time though, like they were being really stubborn and stuff. But at the same time, as much as I was getting frustrated, I literally would just like turn around and just be like, but Universal makes so many of my favorite films. I still am going to support that studio because they make good films. With Disney, I've really become disillusioned with Disney for over this last year.
Well, Disney's at the point where Universal was. in the time Disney was at the Renaissance.
Yeah.
You know, they're in their slump while they're in their high.
Yeah, but the thing is that Disney's really gotten to the point where I almost just like don't want to even bother going to a movie if I know that Disney's behind it. I'm sorry to say, but their products are not good. They're not putting out good films. And
Well, the
thing
films
that's
that we
bothering
did
me,
watch that were good by them were overshadowed by so much filth. It was terrible.
exactly, it's overshadowed by a bunch of garbage.
Their
Like
best studio right now is Marvel, and they're struggling.
like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was the best film that Disney produced this year. Otherwise, on our list here, Boogeyman was a Fox film. And it did awful in the box office, but it's a well put together film.
Haunted Mansion was also
Haunted
really
Mansion's
well
Disney, but it got overshadowed by everything else. Indiana Jones, it felt like a cash grab. It felt a little soulless at times. It floats in that missed the mark category. Like, I love Indiana Jones.
Did they lose money on that one too?
Oh, a bunch. Like 500 million.
That actually saddens me a little bit but it's Disney's fault. They soured their own market so bad that no one trusts them anymore.
Well, they soured their own market, but here's the thing.
Nobody looks at a Disney film and goes, that's going to be good. You know what I see all over social media, in real life, around people I'm at, people, coworkers, people I work with, everyone I know?
Disney's...
Disney.
Well, because the thing is that they're not listening to their actual audience. And they're making this really awful PR mistake.
Well, they might be, but we won't know it till 5 years later because that's how long it takes to get a movie out.
Well, yeah, but
part of the problem is Disney especially is really bad about like timekeeping. Like some of these studios will like from concept to film will be like 2 years. Disney's like, we're Disney. We can sit on this as long as we want. And they'll do like 5 to 10 year film cycles. And by the time they realize that they've missed the mark, is too late to do anything about it.
But I don't even think that it's really that bad. Think about it. Snow White went from being announced and started filming to going into like, it was supposed to come out this month. The first announcements of it was back in June.
Yeah, but they have been working on it for a while.
They've been working on it, but
their live action ones do go a lot faster than their animations, obviously.
Yeah.
CGI and film animations, the average, like, that's a little different of a thing. Live action is usually an overturning rate of a year or two, whereas animation can go 5 to 10 years easy. Which is Disney's bread and butter for a long time.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of live action stuff now again, like they used to back in the 60s and 70s. But here's the thing. They aren't doing it well, like you said, but they're also like they're taking too long to listen.
Well,
then they're not listening right. They're like you said, they're like, we want this. Oh, okay, here's that. No, it's like we like move it to the left, and they move it to the left 20 feet. I'm like, I meant like,
yeah. Or here's the thing. Like the thing that Disney's doing that is so frustrating is that they say one thing and they do another.
That's also true.
Because think about it. Like Bob Iger, CEO. Right, he's in charge of Disney. He's doing their whole thing.
Wait, is he the current CEO right now?
I think so. I think it's Bob Iger. But anyway, so he goes down and literally like the Marvel's flops. Marvel turns around and blames the audience. But the thing that's frustrating about it is they blame the audience that actually went to the movie. Because there's a disconnect. They don't understand who their audience is, and because they don't understand who their audience is, they're losing that audience and then blaming that audience.
Marvel Studios has become what Marvel Comics was literally a decade ago. They are still, but became a decade ago.
Yeah.
Where they stopped listening to their people and didn't know what they wanted to be anymore.
Yeah, but anyway, so he goes out and he makes a public statement. He's like, it has to be about quality over quantity, and we really need to move away from this idea of the message. He actually straight up said it. He was like, we need to move away from the message, because that seems to be aggravating a bunch of people. What did he just turn around and do this last week? He announced a new Star Wars film and put somebody in charge of that film to direct the film. And the first thing that person says is literally, I am a woman. I was hired because I am a woman, and I'm going to shape Star Wars to be more in line with the message. Disconnect. They say they're going to do one thing, and then they do the complete opposite. And then they double down on it, and then they blame you when they are the ones that are screwing up. They blame their audience and alienate their audience, and then blame them for it.
What's funny is even the people who like agree with them like on politically don't want to watch the stuff they make. Like that's what's funny. It's like you're making it bad. Like nobody wants to watch it. Well, these people, you know, people who actually care about women would want to watch it. Dude, there are feminists that think your movie is garbage. You are literally alienating everybody. You're trying to please, I don't even know who, but it's like you're trying to please like one like group of people, and even the people you're trying to please hate it. Like you're not doing it well. You don't know what you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing. Yeah. Or they do, and we just misunderstand their purpose. Like they're sabotaging on purpose or something. I have no idea what they're doing. I don't understand.
I don't understand either. And the thing too is that it's literally one of those things where it's like they act like their audience are the people that they pay to praise their films.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's like they're like, oh, this film had so much praise on Twitter. And it's like you paid them to do it.
Oh, look, all the people we paid to like our movie. Therefore, it's good. So we should keep making movies for them. Dude, you paid them. They're going to tell you it's good no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Although it's funny because there's a lot of people who got paid to watch Disney films that would say things like, it was a movie. Like, and you're like, because they can't say anything bad because they're like contracted. So they just don't say anything good.
No, my favorite is when they clearly do not like the film. And they make it clear sarcastically that they don't like the film. Like, I've literally seen Twitter posts where somebody is like, they say something where they're like, it was The Marvels. And they're like, The Marvels is the best Marvel movie to come out since Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has a definitive end. So, it had moments that were really delightful and like the buzzwords that they wanted. It's delightful and joyful, and the chemistry of the cast is interesting. And overall, I would say that Marvels is definitely a film that was made. Like, it literally was like that. Somebody literally made that. And somebody in the comment section just straight up asked, they were just like, so did it cash out? Did the check cash? Like,
yeah. Oh, I didn't see that. And he's like, yes, it did.
Yes, he straight up said it. He was like, yes, it did.
I remember seeing that post. Oh my gosh, that's right.
I paid people for this stuff.
Did the check cash? Yes, it did.
Yes, it did.
It was just like a double joke because it's like they're making fun of him for taking the money, but they know he doesn't like it. But also, it's like I remember reading that is like, did you still get paid after this review? Like,
no, and then literally like the 2 weeks or the month after the film. Like, they have, like, the contract where it's like you can't say anything negative for however long.
Right.
Once that expired, the dude literally was just like, it's an awful film. It was bad. But
that's funny.
Well, that's the thing. Is it just, it's one of those things that's very frustrating. Lessons learned 2023 when it comes to the box offices and stuff like that. It's becoming very frustrating, though, to follow Disney. Like I said, it's gotten to the point with Disney that I honestly just, anytime I see Disney's name on something, I say, I'm not watching it in theaters.
So
I've said that multiple times.
I hit this point with Universal when they did the Universal Monster thing. They tried to do the, that was that same year too. They had a bunch of flops. Like Universal was getting like, oh, Universal's name is tied to it.
Yeah.
But Universal and any other studios never quite had the allure power of Disney. Disney is a staple. When Disney was first around, they were exactly what all these other guys are now. They were the little guy. They were new. And he made his bank off of open source material from way back in the day. 200-300 years in some cases. Old tales. You know, books that were public domain. Some more recent than others, but...
Some were more recent, but for the most part, he used public domain films like Swiss Family Robinson. He made a film about that. That was in public domain. Most of the films that Disney did were public domain. They weren't original. He just wrote an original script off of that story.
Exactly.
Which works really well. And
which is what made it insult to injury when Disney pushed against public domain. It's like, you literally built... There's the...
you built the House of Mouse on on the very thing you were denying other people the ability to access.
That's the epitome, the epitome.
That is literally living long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yes, because it is literally them slamming the door behind them. Look, we made it on the public domain, but you can't use our stuff. Heaven forbid.
Yeah, exactly. Where it was one of those things where, like, when Walt Disney made Disney, like the studio, it was supposed to be a place of creation.
Yes.
And that was his whole thing. We are to create. We are
when
to make
he died
dreams.
is when the company started to fall apart.
Yeah, the idea was dreams come true. Yeah. Like, we make dreams come true. We make we make childhood memories. That's what we make. We're in the business of doing that. And we do that with public domain films or original ideas.
And they did a lot of the live action films that they did were meant to be family friendly films, so the whole family could watch together.
Yeah, the vast majority.
The Swiss Family Robinson, the Search of the Castaways. What's that other one that was a big one back in the 60s?
Herbie.
Herbie films. The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. Shaggy Dog. Freaky Friday.
Race to Witch Mountain.
Race to Witch Mountain on all those ones. The ones, the twin sisters that didn't know they were actually twins. Parent Trap.
Freaky Friday.
Those were all done in the 60s and were like big films, and then were redone in the 90s for like a new generation audience. And
they were good.
And they were good and fun and silly and tropey, but fun. And that was what Disney used to be. And then I feel like Disney bought Star Wars and Marvel and was like, now we're going to be the serious studio. We're going to be like the other guys. And I was like, nobody wanted you to be the other guys.
Nobody asked for that.
Nobody asked for that.
Because the thing is that Disney was Disney. Exactly. Like,
but Disney's like, we need to be like Fox and like Universal and like MGM and be serious and adult and angry and edgy and like, no.
Well, and they also went from
that.
They also went from let's change the world through dreams and magic for children. Like, let's change the world by changing the hearts of children to be, more optimistic and happy. Like, literally make dreams come true. They went from that to let's change the world through strong political messaging and strong arming the competition.
Yes.
It's become this, it feels like death. Like, that's the thing that
even Disney, like original Disney had strong political messaging, but it was very it wasn't
the focus of the film.
It was not the focus of the film. It was well hidden within the film. It was allegory and analogy. Now Disney's just like, hey, did you know that slavery existed once and that's evil and that you shouldn't do that, and if you do it you're a bad person? Yeah, we know that, Disney. Well, we just want to make sure you know that. Okay, Disney, but just in case you didn't know, that's the case. Okay, we get it. That's bad. We're not going to do, but
you can't escape the consequences of the actions that you didn't make.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and we're like, okay, Disney, calm down. Like, if you want to make a message, if you want to make a message about like a serious topic, like that's a good one. Slavery is a good topic. That's a really intense, hyper topic with a lot of like aggression behind it. Okay,
sure.
You just do a film, like, Roots. Okay. It just shows it, right? But there's other films that have, and it doesn't shy away from anything. It just shows it for what it is, and it makes it clear what it is.
Well, I mean,
Disney's like Roots, but then halfway through Roots, one of the characters turns to the audience and goes, did you know this is bad? You should know that this is bad. And if you don't know it's bad, you're a terrible person. Did you know that? And it's like, Disney, we know it's bad. Like, we can see, we're human beings. We can tell that whipping and kidnapping and torturing people is bad. You don't need to tell us it's bad.
Well, or they tell the message, right? They show the message, but they put it in a really bad film. And because you don't like the bad film, you hate the message. You're an awful person. They turn against you, and it's just like, no, I don't like the film. Like, that was one of the things that really frustrated me. Like, I hate to say it, but like about like The Little Mermaid was one of those things. It really burnt me out just interacting with people, because The Little Mermaid is not a great film. It's not a generational film. It's not like this cultural movement film. No. It's not a culturally important film. it doesn't break, it doesn't like break through, and it's not a historical great film. It's mediocre. It's in the middle. But the moment that you say, I didn't enjoy The Little Mermaid, you're a racist and bigot, and you hate everything. It's like, no, literally, like, I just wanted a better film. Like, I was shocked.
Your opinions are based in racism. It's like, my favorite part was The Little Mermaid. She was great.
Exactly. I loved Halle Bailey.
She was amazing.
Every
the problem with the film was the writing, not her.
Exactly, and I said that.
She was the best part of the film. Her and the prince were amazing.
They had great chemistry.
And when they're together on screen, it's awesome. And you're like, but you say you don't like it, and they're like, well, you're a racist. Like, the parts of the film that I liked are the ones you think I'm criticizing, I think. Like, you misunderstand me. Like, the film was bad because it was a bad film. Halle Berry was the best part of that film.
Well, and the other thing, too, is, like, the Marvels.
It was it's almost like she tried to save that film. Like she did. Her and the
prince put a lot of effort into it.
So much effort. Her and the prince like just knocked it out of the park, and like just the and like, there were other good characters too. Like the mom was funny. The court court vizier.
That guy.
Yeah, he was hilarious. He was fun. The advisor. He was great. Like there was great. I really liked Awkwafina's character, except for the song was kind of weird in place. Sebastian was great.
Sebastian was fun.
The king was
very stiff.
He was stiff.
He was probably the worst.
He was stiff, but he's also.
But he had decent lines.
But I was gonna say in the original animation, he's probably as stiff as a character to get for an animated character with a lot of whimsical voice. He's kind of stiff. And the original too, but he's probably rough. The sisters are a little rough, but
the sisters aren't fleshed out. They're just there.
Yeah, they're just there. But that's same with the original.
Yeah,
but it's whimsical and fun. It's just the first half Undersea is sad. That's a good example of a film missing the mark. Like. Yeah. It had such great, and that's the thing that pisses off more. If it had just been bad, we'd just bashed it and moved on our way. But it's like, Disney, you almost had it. What did you do?
Well, yeah, it's like, it's perfectly
Under
in the
the Sea was ruined. That was a whimsical, colorful rendition in the original. And the new one, it's bland and dark through most of it. And then when it gets colorful and fun, it's all an instrumental and nothing is happening with Sebastian or anything. And then it goes back to him singing and it's bland again.
Yeah. No, there's so much stuff with that film that just...
You know what I actually think? Have you seen any of the live action One Piece?
No. I don't have Netflix.
Okay, so the One Piece live action is very honorable to source material. There's some changes, but it's fairly honorable to it, and it's goofy and over the top, and it does all the inflations and weird animations. I feel like Little Mermaid would have been better if they'd just gone ham and had the blowfish playing the saxophone.
Exactly.
Like, just do it. Like,
just do it. Why not? It's a cartoon.
That's the problem I had with Lion King. They made it super realistic. It was hyper realistic, beautifully shot film. The way they shot it was amazing, the technicality. But it's not fun to watch because all the songs aren't all...
They're not whimsical. It doesn't feel like
it's just two lions walking down the street with singing a song with animals kind of there.
Yeah,
like it doesn't have the effect that the original had.
Well, the original one, like, think about, like, I Just Can't Wait to Be King.
That's the one I'm talking about.
That cannot look good in the live action. It couldn't.
They could have. They could have made the animals stack. It would have been silly and goofy, but it would have been way better.
Yeah, but I bet you that they didn't do it because they wanted it to be as realistic as possible.
They did not.
Yeah, the thing is that cartoons don't translate very well live action.
That is correct.
And the thing is that it's like, if you have some films, you just kind of need to leave alone in the animation. If you want to remake it, update it, it's perfectly fine. So but admit the fact that it's a cartoon. There was an
argument that was made that I actually agree with here, and there's an argument for and against translating animation to live action.
Okay.
The one against is straight up the one you just mentioned. When you put animation to live action, it doesn't translate well. You can do things with animation you can't do with live action, and you're never I don't know if there's a technology we'll ever come up with that will ever make it look believable. Even if we made it look real, it's going to look weird because it's outside of possibility. Like Pokemon, if you made Pokemon look super realistic, like if you genetically engineered a real Pokemon, put it out there, it's going to look weird. It ain't going to feel right. Even though it's real, it just doesn't fit reality. But reality has rules and patterns that it follows that cartoons can get away with.
But the other thing too is that like when it comes to like animation translation, just idea popped in my head regarding Pokemon. When they made the live action Pokemon, the Detective Pikachu, they had a choice that they could have made. And the choice could have been, let's go with Disney's route and let's just make it realistic. As realistic as humanly possible that it exists in this world. Or they had the choice that they made. This is an anime. It's a cartoon. It's made for kids. It's already a ridiculous premise. We already have these magical monsters showing up, shooting squirt guns and stuff like that. We have all these things. Yeah. Just make it look like a cartoon.
They made them look a little more realistic than the cartoons are, but only slightly.
Only texture.
Yeah.
It was a realistic texture to a 100% true to the anime style.
Yep.
The eyes are the same. The shapes
which he would have. He has. He has fur in the anime. It's said that he does, but animation doesn't show fur well.
Because it's fine. Yeah. It's fine fur.
Yes.
And it's one of those things, though, that they made the right choice. And they were just like, okay, you make it realistic by making the texture real.
Right. But the caricature is the same.
The character is the same. The creature is the same because it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry to say, but Squirtle, like, all right, Charmander. All right, probably one of my favorite Pokemon, Charmander. If they try to make him look like a chameleon, it would be awful looking.
Yes.
But the fact that he's like cute and he has like the rounded features and stuff like that, even if they gave him kind of like the scale texture, I'd be like, I accept that.
Yes. And that's what they did. Yeah. So that is a good rendition of exactly. And that's part of the problem with translation. Like, you have to be careful how you translate. That's tough. That's a good argument against. But there's a strong argument for. Yeah. And that is immersion and realism. There are a lot of animes, cartoons, and stuff that work well in live action because they're not whimsical. A good example of this is like you take like a detective anime that's just a detective anime.
Sure.
They did Lupin the Third. They did the live action rendition of that, a short one, and it works because there's not a lot of like whimsical anime elements in that. Yeah. They did Ghost in the Shell. I haven't seen it yet, but it's okay. Alita Battle Angel was fantastic.
Yeah, Alita, they did
darn near a shot-for-shot remake of the anime.
Yeah.
In live action, and it's beautiful and gorgeous, and the realism is amazing. Those are ones that get well from that. Yeah. High sci-fi, high fantasy, things you can do.
Well, but the ones that don't
is the goofy. Yeah. Goofy animes don't translate well to live action because the silliness is in it's body comedy.
Well, it's in the exactly body comedy, slapstick humor, and stuff like that. It doesn't work very well in anime because anime, I can make somebody made out of gelatin.
Yes.
Like, I can make the fat guy made out of gelatin. But if I get a fat guy in real life, fat's not gelatin. It's relatively like...
One Piece is a good example of this, because in One Piece, sizing is an issue. A lot of characters in One Piece are giant and middles. There's 5 or 6 characters that are big bads that are like 5 times the size of a normal human.
Yeah. That
are just there. Kaido, Big Mom, like these characters they're huge. In live action, it's going to be difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
Earlier villains in the series are smaller. This is an issue with scaling that anime can have. Cartoons, something like Steven Universe or
Steven Universe would be almost impossible to pull off.
Exactly, because it's whimsical and textural, and or animation is the only way a world like that could work.
Yeah. Regular show.
Regular show. What was it called? Adventure Time.
Adventure Time. Yeah.
A live action Adventure Time would never work.
Well,
but they'll try to make that stuff, and it's like SpongeBob live action doesn't work. They've done SpongeBob in live action, but he's still animated.
Yeah.
That works. It'd be like a real live action Mickey Mouse. No, you know what they did for Who Framed Roger Rabbit? It's an all animated characters in a real live action world.
Yeah.
That looks less uncanny than trying to make these characters realistic.
Exactly.
And that is something that's not just a Disney thing that fails. And everybody struggles with that one.
It is mainly
But
Disney.
yeah. Well, it's not mainly Disney. Everyone does it. Disney
they're
just
like the prime offender, I guess.
Disney just decided to take all of their animations and make them live action
and as realistic as
possible.
Which
it doesn't work.
God, it's
and they missed the mark on it. That's kind of a tangent from like the Disney thing, but honestly, films in general nowadays are all about capitalizing on existing Velma, right? Take an existing IP, try to make it your own, but do it horribly. Making IPs your own. Velma was actually a great example of what could have been an amazing success.
Yeah,
she was given permission to take an existing IP and make it original. And she just made it a mess and disgusting and dumb. And it's like, I feel like all the people out there that are being given the reins to be original are the worst people to hand the reins to.
Yeah.
And the people who would be good at just redoing them. I feel like all the people that are making the remakes and sequel number 45 and the people that are making the original content should switch.
Yeah. Well,
because it's like the wrong people are making the wrong things.
Well, they come at it with the wrong mentality. And I know that we started talking this with like studios and stuff like that, but it kind of trickles down. The issue that a lot of people are having is they're picking the wrong people, first of all. They're picking people for the wrong reasons. But the other thing is this. We have in our mindset as a culture lately, the old is bad. The old is bad. It has to be remade, but it has to be improved. It has to be fixed.
Right.
That's the thing. It's not just it's not just like a redo. It's not just a remake. It has to be a reimagining. It has to be better. It has to meet our standards. And the thing is that
we have to fix it.
They actually fix it. Yeah.
They look at older films like they're broken and their version is the superior version. We need to fix that film. That film is broken. You know what's actually really good? Did you ever hear the song "Baby It's Cold Outside"?
Yeah.
There was like a couple that like rewrote it, and it's like, baby, because they said it sounds a little rapey, so they remade it. Yeah, they remade it.
It's be consensual. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, she's like, I really can't stay. All right, go ahead, go home. No, I really need to leave. And he's like, no, it's okay, go home. And he's like, oh, my sister will worry. And it's like, they keep all of her lyrics the same, but change his to
they play as a joke.
It's fun. It is.
Yeah, it's in a Christmas film. Yeah.
It is, and yeah. I 100% believe that couple made that to make fun of the people who.
No, they did.
Yeah,
like
they don't really said it, but anyway, it's hilarious because it's like they literally came out and said, "Well, we knew the original song was very problematic, and we rewrote it to be less rapey. It sounds so much more consensual and it's the superior version of the song, and they sing it, and it's horrible. Yeah. And you know they do it up. I said they know they did this on purpose because there's no way anybody did this on accident. Because you left hers the same, but that's it. They're like that, but Hollywood is doing that, but unironically.
Well, yeah, no, and they think, oh, we need to fix it, like the Snow White. Snow White's a prime example of this, where they're just like, we need to remake it, and we need to do better, and we need to apologize for our past and stuff like that. And it's just like. Peter Pan. They're apologizing for Peter Pan. They have to have a trigger warning at the beginning of the original Peter Pan. They remade the new Peter Pan to make it a girl boss film. That's not the point of the film. That wasn't the point of the book. If you don't like that, make a new story entirely.
I don't mind though. Like, if you're gonna make it good.
Well, they didn't make it good. The problem is that the messaging doesn't
a girl boss film, like just make the film from Wendy's perspective and make her a badass would be actually an interesting thing. But what they do instead is they take the original plot and just copy and paste it and change a few things. That's I think, what you're getting at the heart of. Yeah. If they change the entire film to be from Wicked, think of that. Wicked, like Wendy, and it's just her perspective.
Well, or
Wicked is literally the Wizard of Oz, but with a completely retelling of it.
But didn't they actually already kind of do a Wendy that wasn't Peter Pan?
I don't know.
From Wendy's perspective, they made a sequel to Peter Pan, if I remember, that was like Wendy's daughter, and Wendy's daughter is super headstrong, and
that was an animated film sequel. It was one of the directed film sequels, but it was Wendy as an adult. I'm talking about Wendy.
No, it wasn't even Wendy as an adult. It was like her daughter.
Yes,
and she went on her own adventure, and she was headstrong, and she was interesting.
Wendy was headstrong in the original too.
But
yes,
the thing was, it was a different story.
Yeah, but
the problem is that they wanted to retell Peter Pan as it was, where it wasn't just like Wendy accepting who she was, and
you know what this is.
Her situation.
I have another good example for that, like Peter Pan and Wendy. Like what you're talking about is what you're doing is you're taking the whole original idea as it stands and just kind of flipping out a few pieces. You're not actually doing anything original. It's like you took an entire puzzle and you took 8 pieces out and put your own pieces in those 8 pieces, but the
and
image
you shoved them
the
in
same.
and they don't fit.
Yes. So you're looking at the image like it looks like the original image, except for those weird things that don't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's what they do with the film.
Just make an original story set in a world that's like the one that's.
But that's hard to do. So they take original IPs. The writers and people who are making them now feel that way. They would rather. Well, it's an organization. It's easier to take over an existing company
they want
than it is to make your own. Yes.
They want to carry the IP, and the IP is already successful, so they have this idea in their head of, I want to remake this IP because I hate this IP.
Well, how many things...
But I need the IP in order to make more money.
Sometimes that happens the other way. Sometimes they're making an original film or an original video game or original source of media, and then it gets the IP later. It's like, hey, we like this, but put this IP on it.
Well, the thing with Velma, that's kind of what happened with Velma. So Velma, the theory anyway, I don't know if it's confirmed. Mindy, who wrote it, they had there's a theory rolling around that Velma was an original idea, and the Velma character was just Mindy because that's what she does. She's not the most creative writer.
No, well, that was something that I did notice about it that a lot of people have also said, is that she literally just made herself Velma. She made Velma and then just did what she does.
But the theory is this. She wrote an original cartoon because she wanted to make a cartoon that was kind of like the Mindy project. Like I said, she's not the most creative writer.
Yeah.
So she wanted to make another Mindy project, but she wanted it to be animated. She wanted to have like the murder mystery things going on with that. And she pitched it to a bunch of studios, and then Warner Brothers straight up came back and was like, listen, we want to make a project with you. You meet the requirements that we're looking for in a writer. And we need something for the new season. Murder mystery.
Slap Scooby-Doo on it.
Yeah. That's exactly what the theory was. It was just like, we'll let you use
that. Happens a lot, though. That's what happened with
which is awful. Like, you shouldn't. The thing is, like, if you have an original idea, don't shove it into something it doesn't belong into.
Well,
it doesn't work.
That's what I'm hoping when new media, like as new, more independent studios build up, we'll get less of the corporate. We'll slap this IP on it. Now, I get it. A corporation looks at it as, this is a really good idea that might make really well, but if we want a wider audience, we need to slap an IP on it that people recognize. And what sucks, and I hate this, and I'm going to stand by it to the day I die unless something changes, they're not wrong. People will go and watch something because it has the thing they like slapped on it over the new IP.
Well, enough people were curious about Velma that they immediately greenlit a second season. Because the streaming numbers were good for the first episode. Because enough people saw it and were like, I'm sickened but curious. Like, enough people do that with streaming.
Morbid curiosity got them going. No, and that the problem with the industry is it's as much the audience fault as theirs. Because the highest selling films and games and TV are always the remake 27 of something we already know. Yeah. The highest selling video game series of all time is Call of Duty. And there's they're not all the same, and people will say they're not, but it's the exact same concept. That's like saying not all the Marios are the same. Yes, they're not, but it's a platform with Mario in it. It's not a lot changes in the way that those games play. I've played like 15 in the series. They're all the same freaking game with a slight different deviation.
It's just a different story.
Yes.
But the thing is...
So is Mario's just another platformer. They are unique enough and different, a lot of them, to be a unique experience. But the point is, people will buy something because Mario slapped on it. So there was like 30 games made with Mario on it that aren't Mario platforming games. Mario Brothers 2 is not Mario Brothers game. It was another Japanese game with Mario slapped on it and sold in the US. The Mario Luigi series is just a classic RPG series with Mario and Luigi slapped on it. Literally, you're just taking existing properties and doing unique things with it, but it's still Mario and Luigi over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Why? Yeah. Because we recognize those characters. If you made the Mario Luigi series and it was Ted and Fred, nobody would have bought it. Yeah. But it's amazingly fun, good game. Well, Mario made it.
Well, and
the theme, the recognizability, the nostalgia.
But it's a good quality game.
Yes.
That has a mask on it.
Yes.
It's kind of different.
No, that's my point.
Yeah.
That is my point. Is that good films that do it right pull it off.
Well, yeah,
it's not about what it is, it's about quality.
Yeah.
The problem is that there's, for every Mario game that did well, there's a plenty of other ones that failed because they slapped Mario's face on a game that wasn't good. Especially a lot of the sports games. Mario and Sonic Olympic Games, the first one was garbage. Mario and Sonic on the cover. It sold thousands. It sold really well.
Yeah.
The game was garbage. The second one was superior in significant ways. Didn't sell because people burned on the first one. If you don't use your IPs well, you get burned. And people get burned for long periods of time before they're willing to try you out again.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that you need to be more picky and choosy with your IP.
Yes.
Like, yes, you have amazing intellectual property. Warner Brothers, for instance, they have amazing amounts of intellectual property. They do. Warner Brothers owns great stuff.
Yep.
They are awful at handling it. Awful.
Part of the problem, I think, is actually a knowledge pool of excess. A lot of the studios that do well in general are the ones that keep their IPs close to the vest and don't let everybody play with their toys.
Yeah.
WB has a tendency to give out their properties to anybody who asks for it.
If they're paying enough money for it.
Well, mainly because they make their money. WB usually does their contracts where they make their money regardless of whether the film does well. They sell out their characters at a cost. Like, if you want our character in this film, you're going to have to pay us directly, and then they get royalties on top of the film. Disney does something similar as well. So they make a lot of, even if a movie bombs, they may still make money, but they enough loss, it's not going to make up the difference. But like you said, I think they have too many properties that there's no one safeguarding them. Lucasfilm safeguarded their characters when Lucas was still there. You can say the biggest menace to Lucasfilm's products was actually Lucas himself, because he hoarded all of his toys and didn't let anyone play with them. He was very selective on who he gave them out to. And when they did, they get like almost all the Star Wars books that I've read like 90% of the original.
Yeah, and they're all
good.
They're good, yeah,
because they were careful who they gave them to.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that what Disney does is they go, oh, the success of the Star Wars franchise. I like that success.
Disney bought Star Wars and was like, let's give it to anybody who wants it.
Well, no, here's what they ended up doing. Like, everybody wants to direct a Star Wars film, but so many people hate Star Wars. Rian Johnson is a good director. He is great on paper. He literally hates Star Wars. He hates it. That's like handing it to Martin Scorsese. He's a great director on paper. He does a really good job.
It'd be like giving a Marvel film to him. He hates Marvel films.
That's what I'm saying.
Direct a Marvel film.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, I get to destroy the thing I hate.
Exactly. And then they're like, oh, I don't understand why this didn't work.
This is handing that film to him was literally this. He's the kid on the playground, like smashing all everybody else's sandcastles he doesn't like. And then they go to him like, hey, we'd like you to build the greatest sandcastle ever made. And then he's like, okay. And then he builds the sandcastle. He starts smashing it. Like, what are you doing? He's like, I hate sandcastles. What did you not understand about me bashing everybody's sandcastles?
Well, and the thing too is that they're
What are you doing?
So Disney is not understanding. So getting back to wrap up, original topic, Disney's losing a whole bunch of money, and I think that this is kind of the final point that we just skated by it. Disney is picking people for the wrong reasons, and they're picking people who hate the thing that they're giving them.
Yes.
Like everybody's already cringing about this new Rey Skywalker thing. Everybody. Nobody wants to see Rey. Literally, I have seen comments. People that are like, I did not like the sequel trilogy. If this was Finn, I'd be more on board. If this was Poe, I'd be more on board. If this was Phasma, I'd be more on board. It's because they picked Rey. And they picked a director that only wants to work on Rey because Rey fits into their idea. And their idea is a modern Earth, America idea, not Star Wars Galaxy idea.
Not only that, but the big Star Wars thing that I think they missed the point on, especially with like the Finn Rey thing, is that they do this female thing where they're like, our women, the leads, have to be strong, independent women who don't need no man and are like can't make mistakes, but also are are victims of circumstance. And it's like basically your story is they are strong and they can overcome any obstacle except for misogyny. That's the only one they can't overcome. That one will destroy them. And
but they're going to overcome it the entire film with no issue.
They overcome, yes, exactly. They will overcome every obstacle that comes at them with not even an ounce of any kind of struggle. Yeah. Including misogyny, who you say that they struggle from, but then explain in exposition that they're struggling. That's like
or
what?
Having another character.
It's like Superman is being shot by a automatic gun. Yeah. Superman's standing there and he's being shot by an automatic gun. All the bullets are bouncing off of him, and they're like, "Look at this poor oppressed Superman." And you're like, "What?" That's literally the image they try to give. Yeah. Bing, 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 bing. Look at Superman being oppressed.
He's being broken by the system.
It's like he's perfect. What? The dude is invincible. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like he's being like in like Doomsday comes and he grabs him with one hand and slams him into the ground. Every villain he's ever fought comes at him and he one punches him into the ground. And then this one guy, the regular human guy comes up and shoots him with a gun, and it's like, that man is a monster. Look what he did to Superman. He's oppressing him. And it's like, is he though? That's how I felt about
Superman,
Captain
who
Marvel.
can literally like just throw that guy into the sun.
Yep, that's exactly how I felt to Captain Marvel. She's like, the one guy was like, you should smile more, and she's just like, in the deleted scene, they took it out of the movie. She like just breaks his arm. Yeah. You know why they said they took that out? Because the directors say like, well, she wasn't oppressed enough. When him saying smile more was an oppressive masculine nature. But when she originally retaliates, well, she's superhuman. That's not fair. Not every woman can do that. So they were sending the wrong message. And it's like,
why do you need the message of Captain Marvel, a superhero, to be I'm so oppressed by men? It's bad messaging.
It's like, but when you have a literally like God among men, and you're like, look how oppressed they are. It's like, by who? Any oppression she has is voluntary. She's letting it happen, and there's none. I see none in this film. Yeah, you need to control your emotions more. What emotion? She doesn't have any.
No,
she's a robot.
No, but anyway, like
that's the Rey problem.
Yeah.
They did to Rey exactly what they did with Captain Marvel. It's like she gets into a ship. She's never piloted a ship in her life. And she
becomes best friends with Han Solo, one of the most cynical people in the galaxy. Because everyone wants to be friends with Han Solo. The reason everybody wants to be friends with Han Solo is because he's super awesome. But guess what? He's super awesome because he's really standoffish and not a lot of people get to be his friend.
And
Luke wasn't his friend until the second film.
I know, and it's wild because everything just falls before her like perfectly. And she never through all three films. I went and rewatched them because like, did I miss? No, not once did she ever really struggle throughout the entire films. It's all internal. She has internal struggles, but it's literally this. I'm so powerful, I can do whatever I want. I probably shouldn't do the bad thing though. That's the internal struggle. But I could if I wanted. She's literally, I would be the best Sith in the galaxy if I could be, but I'm not going to do that because I'm a good person. It's hubris.
I could be the best Jedi or the best Sith.
She's like ultimate like hubris, the character, and it's like, it's frustrating, and it's not against the act. Like, she's just written poorly. Like,
it's poor dialogue. It's bad story decisions. It's a poorly made character.
Finn was the most interesting character in the first one. A stormtrooper that wielded the lightsaber was interesting, and then fought against his own people, like the very people he worked for, the New Order. Like that is interesting as all get out, and he's the side story to Rey, who's Potato the character.
She's not even Potato the character. Potato the character in Sucker Punch was far more interesting.
Oh, that hurt.
That's a burn. But
the
anyway,
first film, I was willing to accept the premise because in the first one,
well, I was thinking the second one she would struggle because the first time was just kind of like a fluke.
People have said that she is a true Mary Sue. People say, well, Luke was a Mary Sue. No, because Luke struggled. In the first film, things come easy to him. That's the point. In the second film, he gets whacked down so many levels.
He's beaten down a lot.
He's beaten down by Yoda, knocking his hubris down and keeping his pride under control.
He's literally shot down.
He's literally shot down, and then he's literally gets his arm cut off by his father. He struggles so much in the second film. The first film, he is just like the hero that he does. Rey imitates him. But the biggest difference is Luke was actually a pilot in the first one.
Yeah.
He didn't pilot an X-wing, but he piloted some similar. So there's parallels. She piloted her machine. You could say, the Millennium Falcon, it's mixed with that innate force ability. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Until they kept doing it through every film after.
Well, but
the first film became harder to accept the more it read into it film after film.
The other thing to consider too is the size difference. Rey always did everything that Luke did, but at a bigger scale.
Yes.
And the thing is that it was also stuff that like Luke couldn't do. The first film, okay, so think about this. Luke is a experienced pilot. He's trained on the world to do farming, so he's familiar with aircraft. It's a fascination of his, is what he does. The first ship that he flies is an X-Wing, which is about the same size as his speeder.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do anything that...
His Skyhopper is pretty, yeah.
Yeah, like...
T-16.
He also isn't doing like incredible acrobatics and things like that in the air.
It's a straight tunnel run.
Yeah.
Straight tunnel run.
Yeah. Rey's first spacecraft is the Millennium freaking Falcon.
And the third film.
No.
In the third film. Remember in Empire where they're like weaving through the Death Star?
Yeah.
They literally took an unexperienced pilot and stuck her in the Millennium Falcon trying to fly to the center of the Death Star. And she did it like a pro. Yeah. She did it better than
Lando Calrissian did, who owned the Millennium Falcon for years.
That hurts, but you can explain it away a little bit with the forces rebalancing, and she's just overly powerful. Her instincts are amazing.
Yeah,
fair enough. But she needs to be knocked down a peg in the second one if she relies on it too well. No, she continues to be a god among men throughout all three films.
Well, it's also just a thing of literally the first film. They're like, oh yeah, she mirrors Luke. It's always at a bigger scale though. Luke has some sort of force abilities. The only force abilities that Luke really shows outside of his little training montage, which Rey doesn't have in the first film, outside of the training montage is he guides the torpedo. That's it. And it's not even shown that he's doing that like consciously.
No, actually the way that it's described, there's a novelization of it.
Yeah.
And it describes him picturing the missiles going into the hole. It's an exhaust port.
And he misses the first time.
It's meant to be blown out, not in. So the first person misses.
Yeah.
And so, and then Luke misses. I think he shoots once, doesn't he? But misses, and then he has to shoot again.
No, he doesn't trust the computer because of the failure. Because he goes, okay, the computer's off.
Right. But he's saying use the Force. And so it's not clear perfectly in the movie exactly how the Force is guiding the missiles into the hole. But in the novelization, it literally describes him like imagining the missiles going down, and his innate Force ability mixed with his inexperience pushes them down into the exhaust port.
Right. So anyway, he does that. That's like the first time he ever really uses Force.
Yes.
The first time Rey uses the Force is a Jedi mind trick that we've only ever seen Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon use successfully.
Yes.
Actually, Qui-Gon didn't even use it successfully.
Luke does it too.
He does it in the third. But that's the third film.
After he's learned, yes.
Yeah, after he's learned and he's been training with Yoda.
She just starts picking it up innately.
Yeah, she picks
Again, I can accept the innate nature of it on the Force rebalancing, but you two problems with that premise. One, they don't use that at all. They don't. They just make her God without explanation. And two, every film subsequent after doubles down on that ability. It doesn't show her learning anything.
DJ, we should just do a Star Wars episode at some point.
Okay.
Like, we're getting really into the weeds with Star Wars. So back overall arching thing.
Up.
Okay, so like Disney, Universal and stuff like that, they're handling this whole situation really poorly. And the thing is that I think that Disney and Universal are really kind of like this tale of two cities kind of thing. Universal is doing really well right now. They won the box office in 2023 over Disney. Disney lost $1 billion in the box office. Look at how Universal carries themselves and Disney carries themselves.
Right.
Universal, even amidst failure and things like that, they kind of turn around. They say, well, we were proud of the project. It didn't work well with audiences. We'll move on to another project, or we'll do it differently. We'll do it better.
Right.
Literally, weren't they behind Dungeons and Dragons?
I don't know who did Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm pretty sure it was
I'd have to look
Universal.
it up. I don't
but
remember.
anyway, like usually what they do is they'll say, well, it had
Actually,
a very
I think
good
in Lionsgate, which I don't remember who owns them.
Okay, but anyway, even amidst like a lot of their failures and things like that, what happens is Universal goes, well, we didn't do a great job because of XXXXX. We're going to fix it. And we're going to adjust. We're going to make a better film. And they make a really decent quality production. They make what people want and they pay attention to what people want. When Disney makes a mistake in the box office, they alienate, blame, and throw all of the issues at the audience's feet. And they just go, well, you're not accepting it because the audience is terrible. These people are awful. They don't understand how important these films are. Whereas Universal is just being an entertainment studio. Disney wants to be this, like, cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah, they want to be like the epitome of, like, change or something. I don't know what. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make sense, but the other thing, too, is just see how they handle themselves with success and with failure.
Right.
Success with Disney, they just go, of course, we're Disney. Success is in our name. At failure, the audience sucks. The audience is terrible.
Right.
Everything about these audiences is just horrible. It's not because we didn't make a good film. It's because the audience. Universal makes a great film. What do? We made a great film. We're going to make more. We'll make another Super Mario Brothers. We'll make more animated films. We'll do all these different things. Whenever they have a failure, I don't think I've seen a statement from Universal or any of their actors that was negative towards their audience.
No.
Like, whenever they have a bad film, they just go, that was a bad film. It was a mistake. We move on. We'll make a better film.
That was a big thing about the Universal thing. They were like, well, it was a flop. Our bad. We'll do better. No, you're right. Disney has led the charge of blame the audience for our mistakes. And you could say, well, really, Disney? Well, yeah, because what are the big studios that are blaming their audience every single time a movie fails?
Yeah.
Pixar, Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, and Fox. Disney owns all of those.
And they're awful to their audience, and then they wonder why the audience is gone.
They did it with Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah. They blamed the audience for Indiana Jones, too. It's because there's a female character in it. They're completely
a lot of me thinks this. There's like these writing crap films, and they just put a particular type of person in the lead spot somewhere just so that they can use them as a shield.
Yeah.
I am strong. It's like in the second the second of the sequel Star Wars trilogies, they put what's her name in there. They added the character Rose Tico. And her character was just terrible, and it didn't fit. It didn't make any sense. And they just like threw away everything that they did in the previous film. And everybody's like, it's because sexist racists hate this film because of Rose. And it's like, no, we hate it because it's bad. Yeah. And we're like, well, what's the part about you hate? Well, a lot of it's Rose. See, you hate, you're racist and you're sexist. No, your character's bad. Well, other characters are bad. Why don't you hate them as much? I did.
Yeah, but
it's like a mind game where they're like trying to make you doubt your own like you actually you don't know it. Maybe you don't even know it. Maybe you don't know why you hate it.
You're just an awful person.
But you're an awful person, and you just don't realize you're a sexist and a racist. It's like,
if you were a good person, you would buy all the Disney merchandise.
And then they'll say, this about, it's a female-led film. That's why it failed. People hate female-led films are terrible because people hate female-led films because of sexism. It's like,
never mind the fact that the entire time that you were doing your press tour, you had your main character's actress literally saying, this film is not for you. Don't come.
But
that's why I didn't go.
Even in spite of that, some of the highest rated films of all freaking time have female leads in them.
Oh yeah, no,
Alien. Holy freaking crap!
Yeah,
like Sigourney Weaver is like just amazing in those films.
Yeah, they're great.
But you bring that up, and they're like, "Well, that doesn't count." What do you?
It's just an anomaly.
Count? It's an anomaly. It's like, okay. There was someone on Twitter actually did this. They listed like it was like 100. They're like, it was like you can't. I bet you can't even name 10 films that have a female lead that did well. It was like named 100. Some that I didn't even think. It was like, oh yeah, oh right, oh yeah. And you're like, ones you probably wouldn't think of. You know what's one you probably wouldn't think of? Fern Gully.
Fern Gully is 100%.
It is a female-led film.
Yeah.
Well,
it didn't do very well, but it's famous, cult classic.
It didn't do well when it came out, but it has garnered. But that's not because it was a bad film or because of female lead. It's because nobody heard of it. Nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
But once it got into video animation, it was highly sold on video. Yeah. Like it did really well because people didn't know what it was. There's a lot of Aliens. The first Alien film actually didn't do super well in the box office, but again, it was a relatively unknown film. It came out around the time, that Star Wars was still a big thing. It came out 80s, right after Star Wars.
I think the first one was 79?
It was
78 or 79.
Yeah. So
it came out around the same time, yeah.
Yeah, it was fighting against that kind of stuff, but it did. It did well, and the sequels did really well, despite them not being as good in a lot of cases. But Sigourney Weaver made that film work. Like, she was the person who made it. That's one of the biggest examples I like to use. But there's more.
Oh, there's a bunch. No, the thing is that the argument. The thing that's frustrating about the argument is that the argument only exists because they make it exist. That's why it feels like this culture of death around Disney lately.
Well, heck, even
because it's. Let me finish. So like this, what I mean by like this culture of death is like, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yes.
If I go to the film and it's not good and I say that I don't like it, I'm damned. If I don't go to the film because I've been told not to go to the film, I'm damned. If I like the film, like even if I like the film, if I don't like it for the right reason, I'm damned.
Yes.
If I like the film, except for the part that they want me to like, I'm damned. That's the thing, is it's this culture of death, because no matter what I do with a Disney property, I'm going to die.
They won't let you off the hook, right?
No.
Well, then I was actually, we were talking about old films, but I was actually thinking even modern films like Alita Battle Angel,
Yeah,
female-led film,
love that film.
amazing. I didn't see Ghost in the Shell, but I heard good things from a lot of people who saw it. Like it was pretty faithful to the original material, and Scarlett Johansson did pretty good in it. There's films that have come out like recently that are female-led that do well. The problem is, I think a lot of times is a lot of the people who want to make female-led films want to make the girl power can do no wrong type of character, and nobody really likes that.
No,
Nobody likes it when it's a guy. It's a Mary Sue. That's literally Mary Sue. No one likes Mary Sue's. Superman is Mary Sue. That's why a lot of people don't
he's
like
a Gary Sue.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people don't like Superman. He's too powerful. That's why Superman works best when he's foiled against other DC characters, because Superman is like the only character that can do anything if he loses his powers. Like he's useless. Everybody else can make it work, and he's just like done. Like
there's only one episode,
and he's made more interesting when they stray away from that.
Yeah,
the Superman in Man of Steel was more interesting because he wasn't perfect.
And he showed weakness. Like he showed that he wasn't
weakness as a character. The original comic one was like was not only perfectly like strong, but he was he was a perfect character too. Perfect in every way.
So the reason that's like it, DC, the first few superheroes that they made, real quick tangent, but the thing is that DC fell into this idea when they were writing the original comic books, when it came to Superman and Batman, the formative years that they were making them.
Right.
Both Batman and Superman have a same thing, but they did it differently, and as a result, they're completely different characters. Batman, people make fun of Batman because of the utility belt, but that's because when they were creating the character, whenever he came into an issue, his solution was always, hey, I found a new thing on my utility belt that does the thing that I needed to do. It was a utility belt.
Superman just kept giving
Superman that gave him powers.
Yes.
They gave him powers that were permanent.
Yes.
So, but that's the thing, is that's why he's so overpowered. Is like that's how he was developed as a character.
Yes, which then which
doesn't make him less of a Gary Stu. Yeah, it's Gary Stu.
Yeah,
it doesn't make him less of one, but it's still.
I think it's just still Mary Sue. I just call them all Mary Sues. I can't even remember the original thing. I know what that's. I used to remember what that was actually like. Came from that.
It came from a fan fiction that was written about Star Trek that starred a character named Mary Sue.
Okay,
that's where it comes from.
Gotcha.
And Mary Sue was friends with everybody on the Enterprise. She was friends with everybody on the Enterprise, and by the end of the film, Captain Kirk gave her the captainship, and she was literally a nobody ensign at the beginning of the book. That's where the Mary Sue came from.
Wow, that's really bad. Anyway, but yeah, the character tropes that make them that are literally they never have a challenge. They don't struggle. They're perfect. Superman has been made more interesting in more modern takes, and more modern meaning literally from like even like 20 years after he was created. But
well, yeah, they've
I mean,
given
like,
him weaknesses and they've given him character.
But he's developed, he's become more of a character to align to relate to. Yeah. Because even when he was like, actually some of the really modern ones were really interesting, because even though he's like invincible on the outside, he's still human on the inside.
Right.
And he still deals with human problems. Like, yeah, I can stop bullets and like fly into space, but I can't navigate like my relationship. Like I still get into a fight with my wife occasionally. Like that's like, oh my gosh, like he's a superhuman and he still deals. Even this guy with all of his power deals with the same problems I do. Suddenly makes him way more relatable than he's just perfect in every way.
Yeah.
Instantaneously.
Oh, you make him human. Like,
and you take Rey Skywalker and you give her literally even once per film, give her a major human flaw, an element, and suddenly she's more relatable. But not in once, in the single of those 3 films, her only character flaw would be her hubris, except for she does always win and is always right, so it's warranted.
Exactly. The thing is that
hubris is a character flaw when you actually are perfect.
Well, no, like her choice was literally do I become the best Sith or do I become the best Jedi?
Yes!
That was
literally her only choice throughout the whole film was, do I become the best villain or the best hero? And it's like,
that's not
what?
a struggle. That's
it was a choose your own adventure book, and she got to she was playing Star Wars Jedi Knight 3 Jedi Academy, and she got to the final mission. She's like, do I join the Sith or do I join the Jedi? And that was it. Otherwise, it was just perfect the whole way through.
No, she was in the character creation screen and a glitch happened and she turned into level 100. And it's, do you want the good ending or the bad ending? Either way, you win. But do you want people to remember you in a positive light or a negative light? I probably want people to remember me in a positive light. I guess I'm going to be a Jedi. Anyway, like I said, we could rant about stuff.
I know. Let's wrap up. Okay, so
yeah. So thank you guys so much for listening to this kind of impromptu-ish podcast thing. We strayed a little bit off topic, but essentially what we talked about was kind of the studio situation at the end of 2023, which stemmed off of a discussion relating to our movie recap. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and do so now. We recap all the films that we watched for 2023, but we were discussing essentially the issues that were happening at the end of 2023 in regards to studios and how they're doing certain things wrong. What's the difference between Universal, who's come out on top for the first time in a long time, and Disney, who has been dominating the box office for so many decades? So we strayed off topic a little bit.
They got high on their own supply. That's the answer.
Yeah, exactly. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you are listening on Spotify, be sure to check us out on YouTube and Facebook at Entertainment Rebooted. We do a bunch of different things regarding entertainment, mainly films. That's kind of our realm.
Yeah.
But
we dabble in other entertainment, but visual entertainment in general, but film specifically is like what we're really focused on.
Right. So yeah, if you're on Spotify, check us out on YouTube. If you're on YouTube already, be sure to leave a like on this. Let us know your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content like this. And we will see you guys in the next video.